So, the more, and the getting what you want, and
the never-ending stream of my never-ending desires. Let's get real here. You're not ever going to get it done.
So I have a judgment about the speed that I am currently experiencing.
Things aren't going fast enough for you? Things are going too fast for you?
Things are going fast. It's a fascinating inquiry. So they're going fast, and then I notice that I'm having a judgment like, oh, I should slow it down, or, oh, after this trip, I'm going to chill. And then I was like, why am I doing that? Like, I don't know what I'm going to do next.
Let us just put a little basis of conversation in here, and then we really want to hear from you. So we've been talking about the emotional scale, 22 emotions on it, all the way from appreciation all the way down to despair. And not at the halfway point in terms of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 22, but at about 8 and 7. Number 8 is boredom. That's the place where you say, I don't care, I give up. And 7, which is, what is it? Satisfaction or contentment. So right about there is where we say that the fulcrum on this emotional scale tips. So we're calling it upper half of the scale and lower half of the scale. So if you've been setting intentions and in the receiving mode, in the allowing mode, so that momentum is getting faster and faster and faster, some subjects you're right up to speed on those, and on some subjects not so much. So once you get some things really rolling, if you keep bumping up against some, I need to slow down or I need to chill, it only means that some aspects of your life, some subjects of your life, not the true issues, because issues are how you feel, but some subjects of your life are not quite as up to speed as other subjects of your life. And so you're bumping up a little more rough water. You've been feeling the difference in the sailing of this vessel. When the seas are a little rougher, there's a bump, 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 bump along the way that makes it a little rougher ride. And when the seas smooth out, it's more smooth sailing. In other words, everybody understands about that. So we wouldn't say that you need to slow down. We would say what you're really looking for is a desire to focus more on the things where it's smooth sailing. Get off the trying to fix it subjects and on the subjects that are the most exciting to you. On the subjects that feel the best. The game that we've been encouraging, and Esther's been playing it all day, every day, to her delight and smoothing out process. And the game is, you just take a deep breath in and out, maybe 2 or 3 times, relative to something that you're pondering. And then you just say, now after these breaths, sort of quieted mind, do I feel a little better or a little worse, or do I feel the same? And when you do that for 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 times, every time Esther will say, oh, I feel a little better. She at first began playing that game when something was bothering her about something, and she just sort of breathed it into a not bothersome place. But then she started doing it with nearly every thought that would just sort of pop into her mind, because you're always trending, and it doesn't take more than 17. You just get a little bit over a minute, and you've trended enough one direction or another that the thoughts that you've been thinking are going to become bold enough that you're going to have a realization of them. And it's usually at that point that a thought occurs to you. The thought occurs to you. So sometimes, without tending to vibration, a thought will occur to Esther that lets her know she had been trending on the lower half of the chart. It's usually something like, wouldn't it be really something if when I went to get my COVID test, I am positive and can't get on the ship? Well, that thought did not feel good. And there was no reason for that thought except that she was being asked to do something that she really didn't want to do. Esther has always said, and known that no matter what, because she's had the experience with us, she one day bit into something on one of the cruises and broke a tooth. And it really hurt, but not when Abraham was talking. So she knew that even though she had a really sore tooth, it wasn't going to hurt when she was on stage. So she knew the show could go on no matter what. One day, she felt like she'd broken her foot, but it didn't hurt when she was on the stage with Abraham. Don't tell others, they will lock Esther up. And so Esther thought that no matter what, she would be able to stay far enough away from you not to give it to you, and still be able to have the Abraham experience. But if she can't get on the ship, because what if it's a false positive? Well, that thought did not feel good. And have you noticed that when you really care about something, that the other end of that stick can show itself to you more easily? The more you care about something, the more the other end of the stick seems active. And so that's why the thought occurred to Esther, and she just said, no question about how that thought feels. So she just did the breathing, and then she thought, do I feel a little better, or do I feel a little worse? Or do I feel about the same? And it wasn't long before she had let that thought go. Now, she was not ever going to test positive, but that's not the point. The point is, was she going to use this thing that was a logical thing to worry about as a reason to diminish her alignment and make her feel like maybe she should slow things down? It's not the things in your life that are overrunning you or overtiring you. It's always your perspective and how much you allow the replenishment to come. We want you to know that you could move in so much more life experience than any of you are currently doing, and never get depleted and worn out if you could keep yourself trending in that replenishing mode, because as fast as you breathe energy out, source breathes it right back into you. It's illogical that you get worn out and that you get tired, but it's not illogical that you get crossways in your energy. So once you understand what it is, my body is not depleted because I've worked too hard. My body is depleted because my focus of my mind didn't allow the replenishment to happen on the regular enough basis to keep me replenished in the way that I want to be replenished. Can you feel the difference? Is this helpful? Is anyone out there? The lights are very bright.
So that steadies things.
Yes. Yes. When you're interacting with other people, it's not a possible thing to not be sensitive to vibrations around you. And your worldview mostly says that you should be sensitive to things around you and that you should be considerate of others. Well, we're not wholly in disagreement with that. But we are in disagreement with it if it goes like this: I should consider what others think more than I should consider how I feel. So then it comes for most people in an attitude of competition. Well, Abraham just said, I should please me, that I shouldn't try to please you. That's not what we said. What Abraham just said is, you're wanting to hold yourself in vibrational concert with the whole of you, and then, because there's plenty of room for consideration of all things and all others when you're in alignment with who you really are. You just don't want to get on the backwards end of that, the cart before the horse, so to speak. Replenishment first and then. So of course, when you're collaborating or co-creating with others who have different ideas about things, that's when you want to remind yourself that we all want the same thing. We want exhilaration, and we want passion, and we want love of life. We want clarity, and we all have different ideas about how's the best way to go about that right now. But you're not ever giving up something when you accommodate another, because you can't give your energy away. You can't give your passion away. No one else can defeat your dream or slow it down in any way. It's all you. And it's easier for someone like Esther, who's roaming the earth sort of solo and what some would describe as free, and yet there are a lot of people in her life who have opinions about what she should do. And so you just have to decide that your alignment with your inner being comes before everything else. And then there's plenty of opportunity to collaborate in a considerate way with others, because you're not in competition with anyone. They're not in competition with you.
Is that what the fear is?
Yes. It's a misunderstanding, because almost everyone has been accommodating others. Otherwise, you have no friends at all. Most people wouldn't have a relationship if you weren't nice to the other person. It's the misunderstanding. We're not saying don't accommodate, and we're not saying don't be nice, and we're not saying don't do everything that you can think of doing. We're not saying any of that. We're just saying make sure that the stream of replenishment is really flowing within you before you start frittering it away, because you can deplete yourself and then get on the lower end of the emotional scale and then feel resentful of what you've been giving instead of appreciative of the opportunity to give. They're very different things. What could be more delicious than someone asking something of you and you being right there, fully capable of extending it with no sense of depletion, only sense of adding to? But if you're crossways in your understanding and you think that I've only got this much and I'm starting to give it away, and now I'm getting into this shortage consciousness, whether it's clarity or time or money, doesn't matter what it is, then you get resentful. And there isn't anything worse than a human running around doing things for others and resenting doing it. That's how you get trained into thinking that sacrifice matters. Do you know, you may not know this, or it may be perfectly obvious to you, but there are a whole lot of people running around on this planet all around you that when you do something for them or give something to them, if you didn't sacrifice, they don't think you gave them much. If it came easily to you, because most humans are so mixed up in their understanding of this, they think if you're not suffering, this gift doesn't count. You needed to rip off an arm and give it to me. I'll thank you for that. Or if you give me the last loaf of bread on your table, then I'll be very grateful for that. And it just doesn't work like that. The universe yields to everyone, and there's enough for everyone. And the more you allow it to flow to you and through you, the more you set the example of abundance, of time and energy and clarity and resources, then they'll continue to flow to you. What we said to Esther years ago is, you can do a lot of good in this world if you don't care who gets the credit. One day, some years ago, when $50 seemed like a lot more money to Esther than it does today, she gave $50 to someone, to a relative, and the little girl was sort of shocked. Nobody had ever put that much money in her hand all at once, just for no reason except to say, "Hey kiddo, here you go." And when she told her mother said to her, when Esther gives you $50, it's like somebody else giving you $1. And Esther thought, that sucks. I wasn't sacrificing anything, but I don't mind being appreciated. Would it have been better if Esther had said, here, this is the last $50 I'm probably ever going to have in my life, but I want you to have it. I want you to have it. And then Esther just goes and lies down under her bush and hopes that someone will give her a hamburger. Oh, Mom, Esther gave me $50. Oh, Esther, she's a really good person to give you $50. That really means a lot. You know, that's the last $50 she ever is going to have. Now she's hungry, but she cared enough about you. You see how kind of whacked out it is?
I do. You're touching on so many meaningful things.
We know. We're poking every rib you've got.
I think this is good for now.
Really good.
Yeah, really good.
Good for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.